Hi, everyone.
Greetings. We're on page 95 of the Pure Worship book, and I'll show you that page because there's a pretty good illustration on the top of it of a scene that they want you to think about by the river Kebar, or the canal Kebar in Babylonia. And you've got this a picture of
Closer.
somebody reading from the scroll of Ezekiel to a group of gathered Jews, trying to inspire them with hope that God will restore them to true worship in the promised land. And that, of course, was the prophecy of Jeremiah and now Ezekiel, that they would go back. But the theme they choose is all important here. They think that the focus of this is the theme of restoration and how it is developed in Ezekiel's prophecies. And the phrase they choose is, I will give them a unified heart. And there's immediately, if you know the context of Ezekiel in that chapter 11, verse 19, you realize this is not the message of the whole chapter again. So they've taken one clause out of one verse as being the focus.
So this is Ezekiel 11, verse 19, but it's only partial. Quote.
Yeah. So we thought to read the entire section that they get that partial verse from, which is Ezekiel 11:14 to 25. So the last half of chapter 11 is all about, it's not just about one thing, restoration. It's about what God will do after the restoration one day. And if you miss that part, you don't understand not just Ezekiel, but all Old Testament prophecy.
Okay. The word of Jehovah again came to me, saying, Son of man, your brothers, those of your brothers with the right of repurchase, along with the entire house of Israel, have been told by the inhabitants of Jerusalem, keep far away from Jehovah. The land is ours. It has been given to us as a possession. Therefore say, this is what the sovereign Lord Jehovah says. Although I have removed them far away among the nations, I have scattered them among the lands. For a little while I will become a sanctuary for them in the lands to which they have gone. Therefore say, this is what the sovereign Lord Jehovah says. I will also collect you from the peoples and gather you from the lands to which you have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel. And they will return there and remove from it all its disgusting things and detestable practices. And I will give them a unified heart. That was the verse. That's all they read. I will give them a unified heart.
That's one heart in the ESV and other Bibles. One heart.
Yeah. They say that in the footnote, literally one heart. And I will remove the heart of stone from their bodies and give them a heart of flesh. Now they put a spin on that part.
Did you mention the new spirit?
Yeah, this is, and I will put a new spirit in them, and I will remove the heart of stone from their bodies and give them a heart of flesh. And then they've got a little note there as well that says, that is, one sensitive to God's guidance. So,
that's a spin, and there's not too many spins in the footnotes of the Silver Sword, is there?
So they're trying to translate it or to interpret it for you. Okay, then I'll continue. In order that they may walk in my statutes and observe my judgments and obey them. Then they will be my people, and I will be their God. But as for those whose hearts are set to continue in their disgusting things and their detestable practices, I will bring the consequences of their way upon their head, declares the sovereign Lord Jehovah. The cherubs now lifted up their wings, and the wheels were close to them, and the glory of the God of Israel was above them. Then the glory of Jehovah ascended from the city and stopped over the mountain to the east of the city. A spirit then lifted me up through a vision by the Spirit of God and brought me to the exiled people in Chaldea. Then the vision that I had seen left me, and I began to tell the exiled people all the things that Jehovah had shown me.
Well, there's a lot to say about these verses. This is one of the chapters that influenced me the most when I was re-examining the Watchtower teachings. The idea that the glory of the Lord went up from the temple, and I knew already in my Watchtower training that they had said that the Shekinah glory was never seen again. It was there until the temple was about to be destroyed here, and then it disappeared. And this chapter tells you how, that it describes it as leaving the temple area and going up over the Mount of Olives, the mountain to the
visible.
east. Something
Seen.
visible.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean everybody saw it, because God's visibility is only given on certain occasions, but it's there. The Shekinah glory was in the temple. The Watchtower admits that. And now it's not there. It's going up over the Mount of Olives and then is going away permanently? No. This was the big surprise for me as a witness, that the glory is coming back. So you've missed the point here that the glory was over the Mount of Olives and is coming back to the same place. Later in the book, it's clear in chapter 43 that's what's happening. So there's connected events here that you've only taken one of them out, which is that you've got to be unified, which of course for a witness means uniform in your beliefs. But here, the unity and the purity is contingent upon something else happening. It's not just a restoration to the land you had before, the situation you had before, but it's a transformation. And what does the transformation involve?
And so the wording here, I will. This is God's doing. I will put, where is it? I will put a new spirit in them, and I will remove the heart of stone from their bodies. This transformation is from God. It's His doing. So I think it's rebirth, really.
Rebirth.
That we're talking about
in New Testament
here.
terms.
Yeah. So it's, that is a good metaphor, because in human natural birth, the child has nothing really to do with it. He's just born. But so for God, He needs to do something to transform you, for you to have this rebirth.
Yeah, the secret of your
future. As witnesses, we didn't think we needed God to do it. We could do it.
Well, yeah, your effort to be unified, your effort to be pure is going to one day earn you a relationship with God, which is not even then guaranteed, because you've got to pass through the test of 1,000 years. None of that is here. It's all about what God will do. One can't help but think of course, the passage in John 3, where Christ is visited at night secretly by one of the members of the Sanhedrin, a Pharisee, Nicodemus, who is apparently very supportive and friendly to Jesus. But in the conversation, it becomes clear that Nicodemus, despite these texts being there, not just these texts, but Joel about the Spirit, Isaiah about the Spirit being poured out, Jeremiah about the new heart, and the word being written in these new hearts. All of that, apparently Nicodemus is not thinking about. So he has to say to Nicodemus, that which is born from above is spirit. That which is born from below is of the flesh. You need to be born again. In fact, if you cannot be born again and will not be born again, you cannot see or enter the kingdom of God. Yeah.
So I think as a Pharisee, he would have thought, I'm doing things as I should be.
Yeah.
I'm an expert in the law. I'm keeping this law, and I'm doing all these things. I'm a righteous man. I'm a good man. And yet he was putting all his confidence in himself, in his own ability. And I think that's what we did as witnesses too.
Yeah,
our own ability to achieve and to be obedient and to do things. But the need for a transformed heart, something that comes from God, we didn't see it.
Yeah.
So who was right, Nicodemus or Jesus?
Or Ezekiel. Yeah. Because Ezekiel's got the same message here, that it's not enough that you be restored. You need to be transformed, and this is the way God will do it.
And so when Christians think about Israel, the nation of Israel, that's not happened to them yet.
Yeah.
As a nation, they've not been changed, transformed, reborn.
But all the prophets, the ones I just named, all four of them, refer to a time when that will happen.
Yeah.
And that you see it actually here, because I can read at least 4 stages in that here. First of all, he's going to gather them back from the nations to which he scatters them. And he reassures them that even while they're in those places, he will be, as the ES puts it, I will be a sanctuary to them for a while, or it's better translated, a little sanctuary for them. So that in the countries where they have gone. Now that's not ended. So in their scattering, which of course has been now 2,600 years, that most of them have been out of the land, God has been a protection for those who sought him even in those lands. And then the second stage, of course, is that he will assemble them, verse 17. He will assemble them out of the countries where they've been scattered and give you the land of Israel. But when you get there, that's not enough. Because all of this transformation then has to happen.
Yeah.
They have to have the Spirit poured out on them from above, and their heart transformed from a heart of stone to a heart of flesh. But that even then it's not over. When that has happened, God's glory will dwell among them again, according to Ezekiel. The last 9 or so chapters concentrate on that arrangement in the millennium. Chapter 36, another key chapter in our re-examining all these things. Chapter 36 says that he's going to do that for the sake of his name, not because of them, but for the sake of his name. He's going to transform them, and the nations will see that he is the God who is faithful.
And it shows the power of God to transform people. Yeah,
and one more thought, which is in the ESV and several other Bibles, every time it refers to the Spirit is capitalized. So they are acknowledging something you don't acknowledge as a witness, namely that the Spirit is divine. That's why the Spirit can do things that we cannot do. And unless you are transformed by the Spirit, you cannot please God at all, because he has to do that inward work in us.
So remember, they only quote, and I will give them a unified heart, which really is one heart in most translations. They leave out, and I will put a new spirit in them. Why? Why would you leave that?
Out of your
Seems
title?
like an essential part of that verse.
Yeah.
Why would you leave that out of the verse?
And the answer is because they've got the 2-class system.
Yeah.
They've got those who absolutely have to be born again, and then there's the rest of you who can do it without. This is not New Testament. It's not even Old Testament, as we just saw.
Yeah.
What are our links?
We have the first of a series that I did covering a book by J.C. Ryle about rebirth. The book's called New Birth, and it's You Must Be Born Again. And the second one is Ask JWs, what do Nicodemus and Jehovah's Witnesses not know about the kingdom?
See you next time. 13.5 minutes.